Our memo puts the spotlight on what will go down as a very dark blot in our national conscience. A veritable period of national shame as we all grappled with a power blackout, whose real cause remains the subject of guesswork several days later. Many patients in hospitals could not breathe as vital machines went dead. Business owners had to shoulder inestimable loss and, yes, the country's premier international airport, JKIA, turned into a theatre of shame as passengers groped in the dark with no one to explain their predicament. We cannot overemphasize how much of a tragedy this was for a nation that has positioned itself as a regional aviation and investment hub. That reputation punctured without notice by what is now looking like sheer ineptitude of people paid by the very Kenyans to provide crucial services. It was noteworthy that Roads and Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen issued a rare apology over the mess at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and went on to fire people right from the managing director. But it is clear to us, as must be to many other Kenyans, that this cannot be wished away by selective firings. First, it may be understandable that the CS was provoked by the sheer shame of having a national airport plunged into darkness. It is also reasonable to expect that someone at the Kenya Airports Authority should have put in place contingency plans for such emergencies. What is difficult to understand is whether indeed the buck truly stopped at the airport's authority, or indeed at the doorsteps of Kenya Power, which should have provided the power in the first place. Curiously, KPLC has laid the blame on the Lake Turkana wind power. But in a shocking response, the wind power generator has dismissed Kenya Power's allegation and thrown the ball back to Stima Plaza. Well, if indeed what CS Murkomen did was a standard government response, why are the bosses at Kenya Power still sitting pretty in office? We do not hold brief for the managers at the Kenya Airports Authority who got the sack, but it does reek of double standards on the government's part to fire the secondary offenders, while seemingly going easy on the source of the original problem. Indeed, in more decent societies where accountability systems work, the CS, along with his energy counterpart, would have been issuing the apologies as part of their resignation statements. But of course, we don't imagine that will happen anytime soon. Nonetheless, going by the online and offline discussions, various Kenyans are not convinced that KPLC in particular has acknowledged how badly this failure has been a pain point for them. Is there a public apology coming anytime soon? Will Energy CS Davis Chirchir say anything or perhaps fire somebody? Or should we wait for another crisis and have knee-jerk reactions to cushion the admission of shame? The National Assembly's Energy Committee has summoned Energy CS and the Kenya Power and Lighting Company's Chief Executive Officer, Joseph Siror, to explain the cause of the nationwide blackout. Well, this is a welcome development, but it must not be another circus for public show, where sacred cows are left to graze the fields whose grass is watered by Wananchi's sweat and tears. The committee must not go down the now usual parliamentary path of being an extension of the executive and sanitize any sins of the president's appointees for political expediency. The Vincent Musyoka-chaired Committee of Parliament must not put out the lights on Kenyans' hopes for clear answers. The MPs must not give justice a blackout by dancing to the tunes of the powers that be at the expense of the people who have suffered uncompensated or never to be compensated losses and hits to their health and well-being. Kenyans are still reeling off the shock of having no electricity for so long. The only other shock they can tolerate now is a clear decision by the committee to disregard any pressure to cover up things and bring culprits to book. Also, may this not be just another ploy to give a through pass to unscrupulous but connected people in the name of independent power producers to bag undeserved deals and wealth and justify it by keeping our lights on. This is Kenya, they say, where you may be keeping lights on to illuminate your escape route after the haste. Kenyans who have just been hit by the reality of backdated high taxes will be watching with a keen eye. Haven't we all suffered enough already? Or when is enough really enough? That is the memo.